We are all built by our life stories, but sometimes the stories we tell ourselves aren't true, kind, or accurate. With the right mindset, we can transform them into stories that inspire and uplift, especially in tough times. At STORYBILT, we uncover the strength and beauty that can arise from adversity. Join us as we explore the lives of guests from all walks of life. Discover why the world is STORYBILT. Ryan started his professional career with Grand Fire Protection District No. 1 as a member of the residential team. After his departure from firefighting, Ryan has since had a long career in B2B and B2C marketing, sales, and account management. He has been formally trained as a Firefighter 1, Hazmat Technician, EMT, and as an EOC care provider. Ryan holds a AA in Fire Science and Technology.
All right. Well, welcome to episode 8 of the STORYBILT podcast. So this is, this is Tyler Spenlove, and then I've got my buddy Ryan Pennock that's on the episode today. Super pumped to have you, man. And
good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's been too long. We were just chatting a little bit before we hit record, but it's been since 2005, I think, when we both graduated from dear old Jordan High, man.
Go Beat Diggers.
Go Beat Diggers, dude. So, yeah, super excited to have you on. What I love about the STORYBILT setup and what we're trying to do is, obviously, part of my story is dyslexia, right? And that's, I'm getting a lot of guests that are interested in being on, and I've had guests that really have that dyslexia background. For everyone listening, Ryan is, again, a buddy of mine, and I'll have him tell a story. But when we first met, I can't remember what year it was. Was it your junior, like our junior year?
No, it was our senior year.
You're only 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, all I know is that when you came, you leveled the lacrosse program up. So, but yeah, man. But we've stayed in touch ever since on LinkedIn and back and forth over the years. But Ryan hit me up with just, hey man, like I've got a story. I got some stuff around ADHD and which is an interesting topic because I think it's about 25 to 40%. And it's a wide range of people with dyslexia have ADHD. And so I have it. I was diagnosed with it in 3rd grade. But I kind of don't know a lot about it except for until the last 6 months because my wife was just diagnosed with it. And it everything clicked, dude. Everything. Once she's like, oh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes perfect sense now. So, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited to chat with you again, dude. And so would love to hear just kind of, where you grew up. I know you're out in Colorado, but where you grew up, what your childhood was like, family situation, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, appreciate you having me, and let's get into it. So compared to the kids I grew up with, I had a pretty standard upbringing, with the exception of a few things. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. My mother and father at the time, I don't know my biological father. He was less than a reputable person. So I think my mom, left him when I was an infant. And then she moved my brother and I to Utah. That's where my family's originally from.
Okay.
My grandparents had lived there for 30 plus years at the time. We found ourselves a little family of 3 needing some support. So my mom moved us to Utah to live with my grandfolks so we could get our feet underneath us. And for the longest time, that's where we lived. And then my mother met a man who eventually adopted us and became our father. And for a long time, life was awesome. Life was great, and what really brought us to Colorado is job opportunities for my folks. My dad was in real estate. My mom was in HR. So they found some opportunities in Colorado and we moved. And for the most part of my childhood, I lived and grew up in the suburbs of Denver, Arvada, Colorado. It was a great place to grow up. It's one of those little towns that you see in movies with kids riding the bikes and 4th of July parades and all that kind of stuff.
Love
you know,
it.
then when I was about 14, my father passed away of cancer. So,
Dang.
sorry, my dog's barking, buddy.
No, you're fine.
So yeah, that was kind of a real shift in, yet again, the family structure. You know, really difficult to process individually, both individually and as a family of three. You know, my father brought in a daughter of his, so I have an older sister as well. She lives in Idaho right now. She's a little bit older than myself. She wasn't in the house with us just because she was off at school, starting her own family. So, you know, after he passed, you know, my mom again needed more support. So she moved me and her back to Utah for my senior year of high school. My brother was in college at the time, so that's really where kind of our story starts, is me going to Jordan High School and wanting to integrate into the lacrosse team and starting there. So yeah.
And you were nasty, by the way, just so everyone listens. Ryan is nasty. So we had a good run, man. I can't remember if senior year. I think we lost to Riverton.
No, we got bounced out by the Oakley school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Boys school up in Oakley.
The boys school,
scary.
yeah. So yeah, man, you know, some ups and downs, but for the most part, the steady anchor in my life has always been my mom and my brother and my sister, and my grandparents. You know, they were always there for us when we needed it. Very supportive, very loving. You know, even when I was at my worst, you know, acting out, getting in trouble, not doing well in school. You know, my mom never let that get to her. She was going through her own stuff. My grandparents were always like, you know, you got to get your stuff together, buddy. Like, we know you're going through it. We know you have a hard time in school, but you're getting older. You're a senior. World's not going to care if you have all these problems or if you're sad. So we're here for you. Just let us know what you need. Yeah.
Was the hard time in school just because of because you were just pissed off at the world and stuff, right? Like you and maybe I mean, I don't know how your biological father impacted your life, right? Like if that stuck with you growing up, like, man, you know, but it sounded like you had an awesome, you know, adopted father and all that stuff. But then you get hit with him passing, right? So was school just you reacting, or was it actually hard for you?
You know, it's kind of twofold with that, right? Like I never enjoyed school. I just didn't. I didn't feel like it was tailored for someone that learned the way I learned and processed information the way I processed information. So it was never fun for me. It was never engaging. And then, I was just, you know, I was pissed off at the world, right? So like I was dealing with the fact that I didn't feel like it was something that was really improving me. And then I was just like, oh, well, I don't want to be here anyway. So I'm going to make everyone well aware of that fact.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, and I think that resonates with a lot of people, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like there's one crazy, I mean, it's been so cool with this podcast, just even off episodes, but talking to a lot of different people and people reaching out with their stories. And I mean, that there's a lot of similarities, right? When it's just you're going through stuff, and it's it just all depends, right? I think people react in a lot of different ways. I was a goofball and just kind of annoying, just kind of class clown or whatever. Then there's people that are angry. There's people that just want to push buttons, you know. But that's crazy. Was it hard for you too, your senior year, to come to Utah, where you just, because I mean, I remember my perspective of you was you were very quiet, but for real, everyone, like, whenever you'd step on the field, it was fun, because it was like, all right, like, this guy's really good. So you always crushed it for dear old Jordan High. But was that a tough part too? I mean, your senior year and your new school and everything.
Yeah, you know, I had a really solid friend group, freshman to junior year in Colorado. So that was really tough to leave them behind. It felt like, you know, another setback in my childhood, my adolescence, my teenage years. You know, and the quiet thing is that's in a way somewhat of a defense mechanism for me, right? Like if I don't feel safe or secure in a situation, if I don't feel like I'm going to communicate properly, I just kind of retract within. And, you know, you're right. Like, lacrosse was always a safe harbor for me. It's where I could, you know, filter some of that anger and that angst and just find that flow state, right? Like, I'm a very kinesthetic learner. Like, if I can put my hands on things and if I can, you know, take knowledge and move it into action, I'm going to excel. So that's, you know, lacrosse was always just that conduit for me to really kind of show who I am and how I learn.
Love that.
Yeah.
So how else just as a kid with all that, did it with your biological father and then your adopted father, you know, any other issues growing up? I mean, did you get into trouble? Were you acting out just at school type of thing, or?
You know, it was mostly just acting out at school. You know, with my biological father, he, you know, I didn't really give it the time of day to think about, right? Like, never knew him. He never reached out. You know, the thoughts and the feelings towards him really, you know, flooded into my life when I became a father, right? Like, how can you look at these innocent little creatures and just want nothing to do with it? So that's where, you know, he kind of influenced my life. But, you know, up until my dad got cancer and passed away, like, the acting out in school just purely came from the fact that, like, I couldn't sit still, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus. You know, like, ADHD manifests itself for me in just, like, I have to constantly be moving. Like, right now my foot's tapping on the ground. I don't know if you can hear it in the mic.
No.
Like, I'm going to constantly shift. I'm going to constantly shift in my seat throughout this entire thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was very innocent, but it was, you know, I was just a distraction, and the teachers, you know, often had enough of me being a distraction in the class.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be tough, man. I can't even imagine that. So what happened after our senior year?
You know, I had some opportunities to play at the next level, but I just knew I wasn't going to excel in college. You know, my father, his big aspiration was to always be a firefighter. And he, you know, obviously that was taken from him. He was cut short in life, 42 years old. So I wanted to do that for him. So I moved back to Colorado, and I went to Fire Academy at Ames Community College in Greeley, Colorado, and got an associate's in fire science and technology. And then, you know, immediately went into the fire service. And it was awesome. It was everything that, you know, I'm really geared for. It's looking at a book, going out into the field, and then doing it in practice, perfecting it with your hands, right? That's, you know, and it was wonderful. It was one of the best periods of my life being a firefighter.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, was it like forest fire stuff too? Like that type of firefighting? Was it also just like, I don't know what you would call it, man, like the commercial, residential, so, you know, like in the streets?
So there was, you know, it was both, right? The fire department was up in the mountains. So we ran, you know, motor vehicle accidents, house fires. And then in the summer, we supported the Forest Service on wildfires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long were you doing that for?
I did it for 3.5 years. And there was a little ski area, you know, just down the road from the fire department. So in the winter, I would do ski patrol on my days off.
Okay.
And then, you know, one morning I was opening up a ski run and just took a really nasty fall and broke my back. And then that was
I didn't know. No way, dude.
Yeah. So that was, you know, it for the firefighting. You know, the fire department was great during my recovery, but the expectation was that once I was recovered, I'd have to pass a bunch of practicals again and you know, show that I can get someone out of a fire. And you know, during one of the practicals, I was tugging on a guy trying to get him out of the quote unquote burn building, and just threw my back out. And they're like, "Sorry, buddy, you gotta figure it out from here, because you're a liability."
No way.
Yeah.
So wait, how old were you then? So you were there for 3.5 years?
I started there when I was 21, and I think I moved away from Granby when I was 24. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, how was that? Was that just soul crushing, or were you kind of at a point where you're like, you know what, like, were you like absolutely in love with firefighting, or was this truly like a, hey, Pop, I'm doing this for you, you know, to kind of live your dream for you, you know, out of respect and love, or were you just so bummed? What happened?
I mean, it was both sides of the fence, right, man? Like with me and how my brain works, if I have purpose in a task, then I'm all in, right? Like I'm Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, you know, like
Oh yeah,
come at me, you can't stop me. If there's purpose in a task, then that's where I'm meant to be. And with firefighting, it really gave me a sense of purpose, right? Like to the point where that was what I was going to do my entire life.
Yeah.
So it was without a doubt one of the biggest setbacks in my life, one of the biggest obstacles at the time I didn't know I was going to have to overcome, right? Like
Yeah.
Even today, when that big red truck goes screaming down the street and I see all those, you know, I see the crew in there, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
I want to do that again.
Dang, dude. Yeah, I can't even like I'm like feeling it in my chest for in my heart for you. Just the whole like being a part of something and then losing it. I mean, so my little sister, and nothing but love and respect for you, dude, for doing that. And my little sister is she's a firefighter.
No way.
Nice. up in Cache County, up in Logan, Utah, and then they're kind of a crazy duo. Her husband is a detective, and he's a undercover narcotics op guy, and they're just freaks. And but it is. I mean, it's crazy what you guys go through, you know. Yeah. And it's. I mean, I love it. I think it's. I mean, obviously, we need you guys. But so, and were you married at the time, or
no?
Were you
so
just bacheloring it up?
Just kind of
fighting fires, dude. Just getting all ripped, and then going and skiing in the winter times, and just that's cool.
No. So, you know, I first met my wife in middle school, and you know, we went to different high schools. We went our separate way. Obviously, I went to Utah for my senior year, but you know, when I couldn't be a firefighter anymore, I eventually moved back down to Denver. Stayed with one of my good buddies for a little while, and you know, my wife and I just randomly bumped into each other in a grocery store parking lot, and it was history from there on out.
You remembered each other from middle school?
Oh yeah. Dang,
dude.
I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah. So, you know, I owe her a lot of credit, right? Like she really dug me out of a very, very deep and dark spot in my life, right? Like not having purpose, not knowing what I was going to do next, not knowing if I was just going to, you know, do landscaping or whatever for the rest of my life. She provided me with some purpose to be a better person and to really focus on what's next in the future, because, you know, I wanted that future with her, and I didn't want to just be some bum who was self-loathing himself the entire time.
Yeah. So. Dude, that's so crucial, man. I mean, for all you little punk kids that listen, if you know, whatever, but you gotta marry up, man. You gotta level
you have
up
to, sure.
Especially when you're ADHD and just nuts and, you know, like can't sit still or whatever. But it's that's been same on my end, man. I got a beautiful wife who just is so supportive, and she doesn't put up with my crap, but you know, she just keeps me moving forward. But well, that's awesome. And so how long were you just like in the dumps for after your back break? And I mean, maybe we dive into your back break too. Was it like, did you get surgery? Was it like because I asked because my buddy just broke his back, just got bucked off his horse, and he broke his back in 2 spots, but there's so many nerves around the breaks that, I mean, he's been, no joke, I mean, he's a tough dude. He got out of it pretty or faster than what the doctors thought, as far as just being able to move and doing all that. But I mean, I think it was like almost 12 weeks. He just, I mean, couldn't even, I mean, 6 weeks wasn't walking at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like just pain, because they couldn't operate on him.
Yeah. You know, thankfully mine was a stable fracture. Like, you know, there's those little kind of nodules on the vertebrae. Like I just chipped one off, and it's still floating around in my back. It's not going to do anything. The tough part was that I also ruptured 2 discs, so that was the brutal part. You know, those still flare up and cause me issues all the time. The crazy part about that is I broke my back. It wasn't a very severe break, but the amount of like medication they'll throw at you for those types of things, it's just like, I'm just gonna, I didn't want any of it. I was like, I'm just gonna gut this out. I had some concerns just based off of, whatever genetics my biological father passed off to me. He's like, I don't want any narcotics at all.
Yeah.
Keep them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I mean, dude, smart move, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you just don't know how that would impact you. That's crazy.
But yeah, after that, I was probably in a really, for 2 years probably after that, didn't want anything to do with, my family. I was very standoffish with my mother, my brother, my sister. Didn't really have much of a relationship with them. Was kind of a real a-hole to them, to be quite honest. It's like, hey, let's get together, and I would make up some dumb excuse as to why I couldn't. It wasn't their fault. I just wasn't ready to be there for me, so I wasn't going to be there for anyone else. And Megan has such a big, beautiful family, and to see how she would just engage with them and open herself up to them, she really started to drag me out of that.
That's crazy. You said something awesome. I wasn't ready to be there for me, so I wasn't going to be there for anyone else.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to write that down, but I can't read my handwriting.
I know. It's you and me both. I'll come out of a meeting sometimes and be like, what was I trying to remind myself of?
All the time. I have to. I sometimes I'm like, dude, I feel like I forget how to. My daughter the other day, she's like, why don't you complete your letters? And I'm like, how about you shut your mouth and don't tell me how to live my life?
Yeah, I'm a grown man.
Because this is how I write. I'm a man. No, that's crazy. So, yeah, man. I mean, and at that point when you're just down, right?
Yeah.
And you separate yourself. It kind of circles back, and I think that's an interesting. I don't know if the word would be correlation, but when we talked about when I met you, you were quiet, you were kind of reserved, came across as shy, in a way, right? But it's now that I as grown men, it's no, dude, Ryan's just stoic. He's just he's just the freaking man. But when you get into those dark periods, because that's the thing is everyone's going to run into those dark periods,
right.
Everyone,
Without a doubt.
no matter what. And sometimes it's going to be a lot, right? But it's how you handle those things. So in that moment, right? I can only imagine you're just this macho firefighter. You're tough. You're strong. And as a man, that's something that we kind of have. You take pride in a little bit, right? And so it's and it's identity sometimes, right? And so then it's now you're broken. You're literally a broken dude.
Right.
And you can't do your career anymore. You can't save lives. You can't do anything like that. And now you're just dang, dude. Who am I? First of all.
Right.
Also, I'm probably nothing because I can't carry someone out of a freaking fire, let alone get paid for a job. You're probably just circling, right? Just spinning, just falling.
It goes back to the decision I made after high school, right? First love, lacrosse, all day, every day. And I chose to walk away from that because I wanted to be a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of it, here I am. I'm not a firefighter. I passed up on the chance to play lacrosse at the next level. I didn't go get a bachelor's degree. So it's I suck at school. I can't sit at a desk. So who am I? What am I going to do? And then I had to go back to purpose. What is my purpose here today? I'm obviously depressed. I obviously can't stand the sight of myself. I don't want to be around my family, but I have this woman that's sees something in me. So that's my purpose. Let's try to be the best version of myself for her. The best way I can do that is to, be a good man, not be an abusive piece of crap or an alcoholic drug addict. So it's just find a job and let's pay the bills and we'll figure it out. And that dug me up, man. That purpose, that to be there for her, to be a person that she deserved was what really got me out of that.
That's crazy. And how old were you at that point? I think I've asked you like twice, and I
like
forgot.
20,
But
24,
24?
Yeah, 24 to 26 is when that,
That period of just like
yuck.
down.
Yeah.
And you met her at the beginning of that, like right after you moved back to Denver? Or?
Pretty much like that summer, yeah. That
Dang,
summer.
dude. What do you think would have happened if she wouldn't have turned up for you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I wouldn't be here today. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Not talking to you, I should say.
Sure. And it's hard to know, obviously, right? But it's cool that you don't. I mean, I don't know, man. For me, lately, I've been thinking about certain things like, man, like if I wouldn't have done this, what would have happened? And not like a regret type of scenario, but more of just like, it's crazy to think about life and how you can go with one decision. It can take you this way or it can take you that way, right? Just one decision. And sometimes, obviously bigger decisions will be more drastic of a path that you're going to be on. But it's a crazy thing. So I mean, I feel like, and we'll get into like your thoughts and your learnings around ADHD, but I also feel like that stuff like dyslexia, ADHD, I mean, just any type of issues and struggles can build resilience, right? With the right mindset, like you have to have the right mindset. And so, I mean, that's at the same time, it's awesome that Megan, right?
Yeah, Megan.
That she showed up at the right moment, right?
Yeah. Like now I look back at that injury, and were it not to happen, right? Like I wouldn't have my kids, I wouldn't have my wife. I'd still be probably some bachelor firefighter, just being self-centered and doing my own thing, and there wouldn't be the substance to my life that there is today. So I look back at that and I'm thankful. I'm glad I broke my back. When I sleep kind of poorly and I wake up and my back's hurting, I'm like, it's a good sign, right? Like I have to reframe it in that context.
Dude, that's cool. Yeah. That's a good mindset there.
Yeah.
What I mean, kind of two random questions, but I would say super important. One, what did you do when you broke your back? Were you falling off a massive cliff or what? I just want to know.
No, man, I hit. So we had just got like an inch or two of snow, and I was opening up a ski run that I knew there was rocks on, and I was going way too fast, and I hit a rock at the top of a little rise, and I just double ejected and was going down towards the run, and with my chest, I'm like, don't land on your chest, don't land on your neck, you'll break your neck. So I just like turned really hard and landed on my shoulders, and the whole lower half of my body just snapped over my head.
Just scorpioned it.
Just the reverse scorpion.
A reverse scorpion,
yeah. And I like woke up like 45 minutes later to my to my walkie-talkie going off. It's like, Pennock, come in, Pennock, where are you? And I got up and I skied down and just collapsed in the aid room, and they took me straight to the hospital.
No way. Concussed too, probably?
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was Mike Tyson for sure.
But concussions didn't matter back then.
No
one thought of them.
No.
I remember I got a concussion. I don't know. I can't remember if it was senior year. Maybe I'm still concussed, but playing lacrosse, Park City shootout, and Fish drove me home from Coach Fish drove me home from Park City, and went and got checked, got stitches, like 12 stitches on my eyebrow. My parents hid my gear from me, and I found it the next morning, and I went back to the tournament and just kept playing, dude. And it was it's like, man, so can't stop me, which is so stupid. And then the other really important question is, I just found out why firefighters always have mustaches. Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
Is it because the beard, you can't do the oxygen mask thing?
Yep.
Is that what it is?
It's the only type of facial hair you can have to get a good seal on your SCBA mask.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I just learned that last weekend, and I needed to confirm. So that's probably the most important question you're going to get the rest of the time that we spend together. But no, man, I love it. So, I mean, are you still skiing now, though?
Not really, man. I mean,
not as much.
I take my son up skiing. He's learning how to ski, but for me, it's very tame, right? Like,
Nice.
At 38 years old, I can't sustain another injury like that. And
No.
As soon as I step on those skis, it's like there's this thing in my mind that's like all gas, no brakes, go. Like, and I have
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I have to be conscious about that. But my son's getting me back into it through his love
that's
of
cool.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's rad. So, all right, man. So you meet Megan. Excuse me. You meet Megan. She pulls you out of the dumps, the deep despair, and you're like, "This is my girl. I got to marry this one because she's phenomenal." You guys get married. You're like what, 26?
Yeah, about there.
Or what?
20,
You guys?
Yeah. It was like 27, 28, I think.
Okay. And then what happened from there, dude?
So, back to purpose, right? Like, if I'm not living a purpose-driven life, then I'm just going to spiral. Like, I'm not going to be fully invested in it. So I had to rethink. It's like, okay, I need a career. What do I love outside of firefighting? What do I love outside of Megan? And it was the outdoors. So it's like, fishing, camping, all this type of stuff. So I really started looking for professions in the outdoor industry. And the first job I got, we were living in Fort Collins at the time. Are you familiar with Sierra Trading Post?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So before they were purchased by TJ Maxx, they were privately owned, and the headquarters was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So just about 45 minutes from Fort Collins. So I got a job there as their gear and product specialists, like helping people understand what gear was right for them, answering technical questions. And that was really kind of my introduction into like a desk job. But, I could do it because I really enjoyed doing it, right? Like, that purpose of what I was doing cuts through the static that ADHD creates in my brain, right? Like, and that was really kind of where I was like, oh, I think I might have something here. Like, if I can just focus on what it is I love doing and helping people and enabling them to do it as well, it's game on. Again, game on. So that was kind of the early phases of our marriage. And as I grew within the outdoor community, I took on more and more responsibilities with other companies, and that eventually led into, North American Inside Sales Manager for a Norwegian ski outfit. And ever since then, it's been, sales and desk jobs, which I'm fine with, but I've always got to make sure that I'm doing something that I can find purpose in. Because if it's not, like, I'm not going to sit at my desk. That report's not getting done. Like, I'm going to be antsy. I'm going to be frustrated. So, yeah.
So who are you working for now then?
I'm working for a company called Hexagon Digital Wave.
Okay.
We develop non-destructive testing methods for not big, but pressure vessels that are regulated. So like oxygen tanks. I actually work with firefighters now, so that provides me with a lot of purpose.
Way. Yeah, that's cool.
And it's a great job. It's a good job. I love what we do. We're the tip of the spear. There's no one doing things like us, and I always love being I like to be associated with the people who are innovating and the people who are doing things differently, and that's where I find purpose in what I do today.
I love that, man. I love that. I think you keep going back to purpose, which is huge, and that's something to think of, right? Like, I mean, you didn't have purpose, and then you found it, and it sounds like that's something you truly think about every day. So what happened? So you have kids mixed throughout that experience? Two kids?
So we have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. The 8-year-old's a boy, the 4-year-old's a girl. They were born exactly 4 years apart on the same day.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
On the same day?
On the same day, yeah.
Dude, how did you plan that?
I'm
just kidding.
We're consistent once a year.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's some sort of magic.
Our daughter came 2 weeks early to take her brother's birthday from her.
Wow.
From him.
Yeah, because it's got to be the daughter's birthday. It's the baby's birthday, too. So it's, sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, cool. I love that. So what point, let's kind of dive into the ADHD thing, right? And like, and here's the deal. When we talk about it, it's one of those things where it's like you hear these days, everyone's got it, right?
Right.
Like, oh, everyone's got the ADHD. Now, listen, I personally, I personally believe that nutrition and the things that just what we consume as humans can cause, issues or things like that to come up, right? And so especially the young ones, right? Like our kids' age, growing up and just eating whatever it's, processed foods, a bunch of sugars, XYZ, there's a lot of talk around that's causing, adding to autism, adding to ADHD and this and that, right? So, but the point that I'm trying to make is, dude, it's even if now it's kind of a hot word and people are saying it, like when we were growing up, people I don't really feel like people understood as much, right? Like
No.
I remember I was at elementary school, teachers were sick of me, my parents were sick of me, and they finally tested me when I was like 5th grade or something, and they were so hot and heavy on trying to get me to take Ritalin or to take medication for it. But at the time, my mom was going through massage therapy school, and she's super freaking hippie, and she's like, nope, you're not taking any medication on my watch, right? Like it's going to be homeopathy and it's going to be XYZ. And so I've never had medication for it. But it's one of those things where it's like, it truly impacts, and it truly like can have a huge negative effect on people if you don't understand it, if you don't know how to manage it.
Right.
And I haven't really dove into this a ton, but I mentioned to you earlier that like my wife, we just found out a handful of months ago that she's got ADHD, and it seriously was one of those moments. It was like an aha moment where it just hit me. I'm like, oh, like everything started kind of connecting the dots, and I'm like, okay. And for her too, and she was so pumped about it because she's like, finally, like I thought maybe I was just a lazy person with things. It's just like she can't start and finish a thing, right? And that's how I am with a lot of things. I have to be super organized, managing calendars like crazy, or else I'm forgetting everything, right? But what was like, I would love to know what you understand about ADHD, like any education you could provide around it, but then also obviously your story. Like when did you find out that you had ADHD? And then we can kind of keep diving in from there.
Yeah, so I mean, very similar story, like in school to your own. The first time I realized is like I don't learn the way everyone else does is, first grade. Teacher brings my mom and my dad in and me, and she's just like, Ryan's not ready to go to 2nd grade. So I got held back in 1st grade. But there was no more forensics done as to why we're holding Ryan back. He's just not ready. And then, still struggled in 2nd grade and 3rd grade. And then I think it was around 4th grade, my parents are like, we got to figure this out. What is going on? So I got tested, and sure enough, had ADHD. And just like you, they're like, just pound Ritalin down the kid's throat. He'll be okay. Mm-hmm. My parents didn't really know what to do at that time because no one was really talking about it. It's just he's hyper. He can't. And this Ritalin will make him not hyper. So they're like, okay, if that works, then let's do it. So I was on Ritalin for a long time, and then thankfully my mother accidentally took it one morning, and it like sent her into outer space, and she's like, what are we putting him on?
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So
no way.
Yeah. It's like, so what are we putting him on?
Yeah. And you were on that since 4th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think she pulled me off of it like 6th grade or something like that.
Okay.
And then she focused on kind of those natural things, like make sure he has a good breakfast, make sure he gets some good sleep, make sure he's engaged physically, like he's not sitting in front of a screen, right? Like I think the prominence of ADHD and ADD today is that, people are living in a 30 to 90 second reality, constant loop, right? Like You open up YouTube, you get on Facebook, you get on Instagram. It's just this constant feed of things. What I've learned for myself is I've got to be physical. I've got to be, like you said, well fed. I've got to be well rested. And for me, the big thing is, exploring those other remedies, right? Like a big thing for me is nootropics. Do you remember who Bill Romanowski is?
No.
So he was this monster of a Broncos. I think he was a linebacker, but
dang it. I'm going to have to edit that part. We're going to have to rewind it. My brother's going to make fun of me. All the boys are going to make fun of me and be like, oh, you don't know who Bill Romanowski is? I was thinking some sort of like WWE guy.
No,
anyway,
yeah.
All right, whatever.
But so Bill was kind of ahead of the game, right? Like he realized that taking all these hits to the head was only going to set him further back after his career was over. So he really started exploring like nootropics to promote healthy brain function, and it works for me, man.
Can you kind of dive into nootropics? Because I'm asking for a friend. Like, what do you mean by that?
It's just vitamins and things like that, like natural remedies that stimulate healthy brain function and stuff.
Okay.
I'm not a scientist on it. I don't want to, tout its benefits without really knowing what it does, but. It's not a pharmaceutical drug, right? It's mushrooms. It's positive things. It's
like ayahuasca.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just playing.
Psychedelics work for me, man.
Yeah. So, dang, I'm curious now.
I'll send you a few links for sure.
Okay, cool. Is that something like you just get on Amazon or whatever? Do you have to? I guess you don't get prescribed anything, right?
No, yeah, you can pick up some nootropics at Walmart. You can.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you really feel like an impact? You feel a difference?
I do. It helps. Like I always talk about ADHD is there's just a lot of static floating around in my brain between my ears, and it cuts through that. It gives me the sense of clarity in a task to really focus on it for the time I allow myself to focus on it.
Dang. I got to get me some of those. I'm going to Wally World right when we hang up.
I'll send you a link.
I'm going to try it out, dude. So how old were you when you when you started like as an adult? I mean, same thing, right? Like you're young, your whole life you're like, I have ADHD, right? And if you're like me, conversations in high school, I got ADHD, or whatever, right? But like, at what point did you have you done research on it? Like, I had a friend over a couple of nights ago. He and his family, we had dinner, and he just got diagnosed with it. And he was talking to me that I had never even heard of this. He's like, that there's like subcategories. So there's like ADHD, but then it can manifest in like depression or manifest in anxiety. Like there's certain, and I don't really truly understand that. We have one daughter who we think has ADHD, but with like subcategories of, some anxiety and stuff like that. I really don't know that much about it, but what do you know about it, and how do you kind of use it to your benefit now?
Yeah, so I'll speak from my perspective. My ADHD manifests itself in a lot of ways. Obviously, one, if I know I'm not doing enough because I'm like way too distracted or I'm late with a project, it'll manifest itself in depression, right? Like I just can't understand why I cannot do this. I can't understand it. Like I'm so sick of it. And I'll get down on myself. And then on the flip side of that coin, right? Like if I'm really, really locked in and feel like I'm just, breaking peaks, crushing records, and then someone interrupts me, it manifests itself in like immediate frustration, which, number one, like as someone who is a boss for a couple people at work, you can't really, be frustrated when people ask you questions. So I have to be really conscious about that. as a father, with an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, you're constantly going to be distracted. So I have to be really thoughtful about how and when those things manifest themselves, right? It's not my child's fault that I'm locked in and they need to ask me a question. And I'm not the best at it. And like if I get frustrated and snap at my child accidentally, like, then it goes full circle and it manifests itself in depression. Like, why did you do that, man? Like, be an adult, be bigger. And then kind of like the third thing is just it's always focused. I'm always focused on it, right? Like ADHD. Yeah. Am I being influenced? Am I doing the right things? How am I being held back in this situation? But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's subcategories to it. It manifests itself very differently for very specific people. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know if it's what it is yet. So for me, it's depression and frustration primarily.
So when you try to manage it, I mean, what are those? Is it like, do you have like workout routines? Do you truly like feel like? And I'm trying to recognize this in myself, but it's like, at what point do you know, like, hey man, I'm like hitting my limit of static. Like I gotta figure this out. I mean, that might be a weird question, but
so the best approach I found is to think very strategically about it, right? I know for a fact I'm going to wake up and have ADHD. I know for a fact I'm going to struggle with tasks. So if I know that those are the first two obstacles that I'm going to encounter in my day, I'm not surprised when I encounter them, right? I've just turned that mountain into a molehill. So how do I manage my day? When it comes to work, I believe in a 45-15 schedule. So I'll work intently for 45 minutes, just hammer down. And then you feel that static build and your foot starts to tap. And then boom, as soon as those 45 minutes are done, I'll get up, take a breath, I'll go get water, I'll relax for 15 minutes. And then it's back. And I do that and it really helps manage it, right? Like if there's an end in sight to that static, that kinetic activity that's happening in my brain, I can take a deep breath, I can focus, and I manage it. And then again, with my children and my wife, right? Like there's expectations placed upon me as a husband and as a father, and I signed up for those. I know what it means to have ADHD again, right? Like I can't be surprised when I encounter those obstacles in my life. Yeah. So I have to plan for that. If I'm going to work from home, I know that the dog is going to bark. So that's going to disconnect me from the activities I'm currently doing. So put some headphones in. If it's just white noise, if it's whatever, then that's a start, right?
Yeah.
If it's distraction, if I'm doing something, doing dishes and my child's asking me a question, take a deep breath. Let's focus on that little question for just a second, and then let's get back. It's awareness for me, right? I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's awareness that it's prevalent in my day-to-day activity. So don't be surprised about it. Don't be frustrated about it. Reframe it into a positive context and put a strategy in place.
I love that, dude. And I can't write, dude. I mean, so like truly this is interesting to me because I'm mentality wise like, oh, just it is what it is. Like suck it up, move forward. Like for me personally, like right. Not, I mean I was early on in marriage, but again, I got a great woman that's like, no, you don't, you can't tell our kids to suck it up. They just fell down and they're bleeding out. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't do that, but I mean, I guess I probably did sometimes for sure. But for me, dude, it's like I really don't do that. Like I actually really like that where you're aware, you understand, and then it's like you have a strategy put in place. Another good lacrosse buddy of mine that I met in college, he has ADHD like to the mat. I mean, it's crazy. Like the first time I met him, I'm like, yo, dude, like what is going on? Like, look at me right here, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm exaggerating here, but it was like his eyes are like, you know, like he's so crazy. It's just like, I got to look, like I got to see everything, you know? So he's going cross-eyed and he's, you know, but not really. He's just a stud. That guy, amazing athlete. But for me, and this will tie back to him, but for me, I've noticed this since I was a kid. And my wife, again, like we married some good ladies that understand and know us. When that static that you said, that's a great way to explain it, because that's how I feel, you know, as well. And that's something where if I want to get like good thoughts, like deep thoughts, if I'm working on I'm in sales as well, if I'm working a big deal and I just need to like clear my mind and just have thoughts about how to do things better, truly, like the only thing that I've found for me that really, really helps is like get my heart rate up to like 190.
Yeah.
And so I'll get on my mountain bike and I will grind for 2 hours. And to me, it's work though, because I'm truly like, and I'll have my phone and I'll record notes, you know, for STORYBILT as well. Same thing. Like if I really need to get clarity on something, I've got to go, whether it's, you know, I box a lot. Like if I'm boxing, if I'm exercising at the gym, or I'm up in the mountains, that's the only way that I've truly been able to like really get to like my true me. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like my true thoughts, my true everything. But going back to my buddy from college, he same thing. Like, and we even related to this when we were in college together. I just didn't really understand it was ADHD. But funny enough, he moved back to Utah a couple months ago, and he reached out and he's like, yo, let's just pass the ball. Like, so we met for lunch, and instead of lunch, we found this grassy knoll, you know, a little park, and we just played lax. Like we just passed the ball for an hour, and it was awesome. But we were talking just about everything, just catching up. And then he brought up ADHD. He's like, dude, I was diagnosed, you know, as a kid. My parents didn't want to put me on any medication, so they never did. And he's like, it's getting so bad. Like I can't finish a project. But he's like, for me, if I'm obsessed with something though, like it's all I can do. Like it's like every single waking moment, that's all I can focus on. So he's like, he actually went and got medication. So as an adult, like he's 37, 38, got medication for the first time like a year and a half ago, you know, and it was funny. And what he said, cause for me, I've thought about it too. I'm like, how do I like focus on one thing? You know what I mean? And he's like, dude, it's changed my life. The medication has changed my life. But he's like, it's also completely taken something away from me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, because I mean, we're talking, he had the goal to ride, you know, Lotoja, the massive bike race. It's like, it's a massive 200 plus mile bike race, or maybe even a lot more. So sorry guys, if anyone's listening, they think I sound like a chump, but it's a massive race, like hundreds of miles. And it's really, 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 really difficult. We're talking, it takes like 10, 11 hours to finish. Right. And it's scary. Like people die. I mean, it's a crazy race. So this buddy of mine, he's like, I want to do it. And he focused on it, and he trained and trained and trained. And that, again, it was like manifesting through, like, people would think, oh, you're OCD, but he's like, no, dude, it's my ADHD. And I get obsessed about one thing.
Right.
Dude, the dude ended up winning it. He
serious?
won the whole thing. Nice. And I mean, we're talking like pros will win that, right? Like if you're not a pro and you win it, it's like, that doesn't happen. He did it in like 9 hours and 20 minutes, something insane. Never touched the bike since then. That was a year ago. He's like, I was done. But he's like, for me, I hit my goal. I was done.
Yeah.
But he says the issue though, and what really was taken from him is with the medication, he can focus like never before. He's like, I've never been able to focus, and it blows my mind. Like, is this what normal people like experience? Like just being able to start a task and then finish it and stick with it for hours and hours and hours. But he said that his love for exercise is like gone.
Really?
He's still in great shape. He does it. He forces himself to do it, but he doesn't need exercise to get his pure thoughts. You know what I mean? Like how I am. And it's like it eats him up because he's like, there's so many times I want to stop, but I really love what it does for me in my career and like just everything, keeping things organized. But he's like, that one aspect of me is just gone now. He's like, I'm like, oh, I should probably work out because it's what I should do. But it's not like I need it, because if I don't, I'm going to drive my wife crazy. I'm going to drive my kids crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing.
No, I mean, I definitely identify with that, right? Like, from my perspective, the narrative around, neurodivergent people, right? Dyslexic people, ADHD people, is one of like what it does to me, right? It causes me to not focus. It does all these things, but I think there's also a conversation to be had about what it does for me, right? Like for your buddy, it gets him to that place where he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to win a race. I'm not even going to win a race. I'm just going to prepare for a race. And, the benefits of that hyper focus, right? Like everyone who has ADHD will find themselves in those hyper focused states.
Yeah.
Turns out he can win a race against a bunch of pros, right? Like for me, I've got a phenomenal situational awareness, right? Like that's why I was really good at lacrosse. Like I could see a lacrosse field almost like from a bird's eye view. I had this great situational awareness. I can read people incredibly well. I can hear a conversation and hold a conversation. Like it provides me with a lot of things, right? Like
that's cool.
In sales,
I love that.
I can read someone's face and know that if the message is resonating or not. There's a lot of things that are really positive about it. And I don't want to defame medication because he's right. It gives you what you need, right? Mm-hmm. It cuts that static out of your brain. It gives you that laser focus. But then it also does numb those things that I do feel and look at as like superpowers, right? Like you're a very, very outgoing person. You always have been. And like, would that go away if you started taking, Vyvanse?
Dude, I thought about that. Like, would I just walk around just like drooling and just like a zombie? Like, I don't know, man. You know what I mean?
It's a give and take, and for me, that's, I'm not willing to give up those superpowers it provides me with, right? Like, I can put a strategy in place to manage the manifestation of ADHD in my day-to-day life, personally, professionally. But I really, I enjoy having my head in the clouds, right? Like I enjoy being that big thinker. I enjoy taking on a project, having no skill set with it whatsoever. Like a couple years ago, I was like, I just got to have something to do with my hands.
Yeah.
After we put our son down, so I put a wood shop in my garage. Just
dang it. Gosh, dang it.
Wood shop.
Of course you do.
And
you're just a freaking man. I can smell the cedar through the internet, dude.
And just like I started making furniture and selling furniture or just making furniture for family members. And it was that hyper focus that I need to be doing something that really brought me a level of clarity in that period of life, right? And now for a time it was, we had chickens and now we have quails, and like there's these things that this level of curiosity and discontentment with just boringness. I don't want to say boringness, but you get what I'm saying.
I hear you.
ADHD really plugs me into things and really gives me that, like, okay, let's learn something new. Let's figure something out. Let's keep your hands busy. Let's try and do something that's hard but fun.
Yeah.
and for me, like that's a superpower, right?
I love that. I absolutely love it, because what I'm hearing from you this whole episode is, like, what is your purpose, right? Like,
Right.
what is your purpose? Do we wake up every morning knowing that we can, with our choices can be and make the life that we want to make, right? Like, what is my purpose in life? But then also, everyone's going to have their roadblocks. Everyone's going to have their issues. Everyone's going to have, just freaking the wind, blowing at their face and pushing them backwards, right? But what is the strategy, right? And that's what I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying, which, dude, I freaking love, because, again, it's waking up knowing, hey, you know what?
It's coming.
Like, hey, and this is whatever the experience is, right? Like, hey, I'm dyslexic. Hey, I've got ADHD. Am I prepared to get made fun of today a little bit at school because I'm in elementary school, I'm in middle school, I'm in high school, and people make fun of me when I read out loud? Am I prepared for that? And what is my strategy around it, right? Like, is it humor, or is it, hey, teacher, I don't want to read in front of people, right? That's a strategy, right? As an adult, it's, hey, I know that at work, I work in an office. It's just a few minutes away. I've been a remote sales guy for 8 years, and then the last year and a half I've been here, and it's hard for me because there's a golf simulator there. There's a ton of great people, and it's loud, and it's truly like, so my strategy is I always get there, and first thing I go into a little call booth, little quiet booth we have like all throughout the office, and I just get like some major tasks done before I can go out and sit actually at my desk, right?
Right.
But it's that strategy, man. I absolutely love, because it is, man. And I've wondered, for me, it's like, if I did take whatever the medication, Adderall, I think, right, and Ritalin or whatever, like, what would it do? But then on the flip side, I look at my buddy that I was telling you about, and it's helped him do some really awesome things. And so I look at my wife, and I think a lot of it is mindset, right? Like, you have a freaking rock solid mindset that's like, hey, this is who I am, but like, I'm smart, and I put a strategy together, right? Like, and maybe you don't have a strategy. I'm not saying you're not smart, right? But it's one of those things where maybe life is just too much. Maybe you're super overwhelmed. Maybe medication is the answer, right? But I totally, I mean, I love what you're saying here, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's all about having a plan, being self-aware, right? Like, I'm going to bed with ADHD.
Yeah.
Definitely going to wake up with ADHD. It's coming, right? Like, if I knew someone was coming to fight me, like, I wouldn't be surprised about the fight. I knew it was coming. So it's like, wake up, know it's coming. Be thoughtful about it. Be vulnerable about it, and be easy on yourself about it. You can't beat yourself up, right? Like, because it's not going away. You're not gonna beat it out of you. You're not gonna flog it out of you. So just be ready for it.
Yeah, that's huge. Dang, man. Well, so how have you seen it, with that attitude? I mean, I guess you've kind of answered that question, just helping you in your career, right? Like, helping you just as a dad, as a husband, right? There's the negative side of it, right? Like the rash reactions, right? Like the quick, oh man, like you interrupted me, now I'm angry, right? Now I'm frustrated, or how come I can't complete these tasks? Dang, I'm sad now. Like, my head's hanging a little low. Probably what happens, Megan comes in, swoops in, saves the day. But you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, but then on the flip side, you have a plan, you have a strategy. It helps you be able to read people. It helps you be able to understand conversations, and, on the lax field, just situational awareness, just crushing like you do. But I mean, what else would you say to that? What kind of advice would you give to people that are maybe like me, man, and maybe like you, where it's just like our whole lives, like, oh, you got ADD or ADHD. It's the same thing now, right? I mean, but like, don't understand what's up.
I'd say be honest with yourself. Like, take a step back and do a 360 survey of who you are and the environment in which you interact with, right? Like, for me, a big fear of mine has always been public speaking, right? And when I got to a level in which I had to present to a board of directors, there was a lot of anxiety that centered around that. And for the first couple presentations, like, I fumbled through it, felt like I had peanut butter in my mouth. And that obviously set me back, right? Like, oh man, I'm stupid. I can't do this, but I can't get away from it. So it's like, okay, Ryan, it's coming. Let's build a strategy. So like with big presentations, right? I have to tailor the way I work to the things I encounter, right? Like, so for presentations, again, I'm a very kinesthetic learner. I need my hands. So I'll write out a bunch of notes and I'll hold those notes in my hands. And then I'll transcribe those notes to an audio page. And then I'll go on a walk and I'll have them read to me, right? So like I'm reading it, I'm holding it, and then I'm absorbing it, audibly and then tactily.
Wow, that's cool.
So the biggest thing that's worked for me is just to understand how I need to tailor the things I do to get the best outcome possible, right?
Yeah.
And that goes into that 45.
Huge.
That goes into that 45-15 schedule, right? Grind for 45 minutes, break for 15. Tailor things the way you need to be done, right? Like I take handwritten notes all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's like, what's that movie? I think it was like Brad Pitt or something, where he's just writing all over the wall. Like that's what my desk looks like. But just be thoughtful. Understand, again, the roadblocks are coming. Let's build a way around them, or let's just smash through them. But yeah, it's like I have to tailor what it is I do to what it is I know I'm going to encounter.
Wow, man. That's huge. That's impactful. Well, I love it, man. I mean, do you have, just kind of wrapping things up, do you have any, what are you doing to make this? Because, I think you have some great thoughts and some great ideas and some great perspective behind it. And, so many people have ADHD. I think also just your approach in life is great for anything, right? Like have plans, like be strategic, have purpose. But what, just to kind of wrap it up, are you doing anything on the side? Are you just out there helping people and spreading the knowledge and building chairs, dude?
So
which I want one.
This, I'd say I'm at the very early stages of advocacy and guidance when it comes to ADHD. My niece struggles with it quite a bit, and I've found in conversations with her that I could be a support mechanism. So trying to understand how I can be that for a broader audience. Very early stages with that, but yeah, it's something I'm looking into. And when you presented the platform, I'm like, okay, maybe that's the jumping off point. Maybe that could be the start of it. So thinking through that process, one thing I know for sure is that if I rush into something, I'm gonna put it down eventually, right? Like if it's not a journey.
There's no plan.
If there's no plan,
strategy.
If there's no strategy, I'm gonna rush into it like a bull in the china shop, and I'll eventually put it down because I just put too much of myself into it. So I have to have a plan, have to have strategy. Cool. I think personally, what a big thing is that I'm focused on is, I'm going to go back and get a bachelor's degree. Like, I think I need to prove to myself that I can overcome that point blank hatred for education, right?
Yeah.
Like structured education. Like I really, for the longest time, viscerally disliked it.
Yeah. I hear that.
Just because it's kind of the way it made me feel, how the people in those situations made me feel. I think I'm at a place now where I want to go back and get a bachelor's degree. I think I owe it to myself, and I need to prove myself wrong that I can't function in that environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's I wish you luck with that. I don't have my bachelor's yet, and that's very similar things, right? Like a lot of it's like we went to our kids' parent-teacher conference a couple weeks ago, and dude, it was the first one that I've ever been to. My wife always goes to them, and because it gives me like PTSD. And my kids actually go to the same elementary school that I went to.
Oh, really?
And so, like for real, like it really, like I get there and I'm like, my palms are sweating.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh man, what's happening? And it's just, it's funny, but those things have an impact.
They do.
Well, that's awesome, man. Really, truly appreciate you jumping on. I think you have an awesome story, first of all, and I love your resilience, man. And I just love you so hard, and I miss you. And
I miss you too,
when
buddy.
you're in Utah next time, we got to lax. You got to come out and we'll just toss it around. But I appreciate you, man.
All right, buddy.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Peace.
See ya.
Cool. It's done.
Woo. We did it,
Hey,
bud.
man. Dude, I freaking love that, dude. You gave me some thoughts. I'm like, man, like some things I want to go to Aubrey with, my wife, and be like, hey, because she's like, do I take medication? Do I, because she's just, I mean, we have 4 kids. She's busy, and then she has me every day when I come home, and that's annoying as all get out, dude. Yeah. It's yeah, dude. And so it's one of those things. But this is, dude, you crushed it, man.
Good, man. You're doing an awesome thing, man. You're doing an awesome thing. I personally think that there's so many people that struggle with dyslexia and with ADHD, and it has negative connotations. Like, if I talk about this, are people going to think I'm stupid? It's like, I understand that, because that's how people kind of treated you growing up. Yeah. But yeah, shining a light on it, making other people aware. Like my niece, there's successful people out there that struggle with this every day. Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
No,
I love it.
It's massive, dude. No, I appreciate it, dude. And your story is freaking awesome. And I'm glad that you reached out to me on that, dude, because seriously, dude, like just the resilience, just everything that you've been through and what you're doing now, it's freaking money. That's seriously, it's awesome.
I'm fortunate, man. I'm fortunate, for sure.
Yeah, dude. Well, freak, man. I'll let you know when we release it. It'll probably be, it might be this coming week. We have some other ones, but it might be in the next like 2 weeks or so.
All right, man.
But I'll shoot you a note and you just share it on Instagram, get the word, or whatever the thing is, LinkedIn.